Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm still making this driving game where your only goal is to get to the finish line alive. It's called Panic Lane. There's a link down in the description. Go wishlist it so you don't miss it when it releases on... is it so soon? Well, fortunately, I am now happy to reveal the fifth and final set of tracks. So for those who don't follow my channel, please subscribe. But also, until this point, there has been 4 different sets of tracks with their own themes and mechanics. The original plan was to make 6 sets of tracks, but each set will have about 10 tracks. So 5 sets already means 50 tracks plus a final boss track. So I think that's quite enough. So what is the 5th set? Well, the theme is not so dystopian future. Do you know that almost everything you see is not final? These are just placeholder assets. Anyhow, we have tall buildings, a white rooftop, and some colorful containers. This is actually a homage to a certain video game. Anyone? There's also flying cars. They're all taxis at the moment. If you have any ideas what to add to the scenery, please do let me know in the comments. But hey, what do you do here? Well, you dodge moving containers. And we also have the bomb. So for those who don't know, the bomb explodes if your velocity is below a certain threshold. And if that happens, you instantly respawn. First, we have these simple containers with the gaps between them. This is mostly to introduce the idea of dodging the containers. Currently, the containers are not going anywhere. I will of course change that, though I have to admit there's something intriguing in the concept where things appear to be moving fast, but when you take a closer look, you realize that nothing is actually going anywhere. After this track, I throw the first wrench at the player and add some additional obstacles between the sections with the moving containers. These obstacles have a special purpose, so let me explain in paint. By now, the player should know that in order to get through the moving containers, you have to drive in the same direction with the containers. For example, if the containers are going from left to right, you have to position your car on the left side of the track and turn right. Just going straight is not an option. The additional obstacles are positioned so that the gaps between them essentially form this X shape. This forces the player to make a decision. Do I turn left or right? And in order to make the right decision, you have to look at how the containers are moving while dodging the additional obstacles. And as almost everything in Panic Lane, the obstacles are randomized. So even though you have a general idea where you want to go, you have to be on your toes. This is essentially Rally. In Rally, the navigator tells you what the road will look like with a passive-aggressive tone.
3 right long, tightens 2, 30. 3 left, 60.
And what I hope happens here is that the player goes like, hey, that is a green container going left. So now I have to turn right, so I will be in a good position for turning left when I'm close to the moving containers. After the simple containers, there are tracks dedicated to 3 other types of containers. We have blue containers that are at a 45-degree angle, then we have yellow containers that create this zigzag-shaped corridor. And finally, there are red containers that also have a corridor, but it's longer. I added these markings on the zigzag containers because otherwise it's hard to tell which way the corridor goes. Each of these container types has 4 variations. The containers move in different directions, but there's also 2 different versions. And this is not as straightforward as you might think. For example, this version of the blue container is much easier than this version. Or it would have been easier if the containers moved at the same speed, but I adjusted the speed depending on the version so that the player doesn't get a free lunch. There will be different difficulty options in the game, so don't panic. At some point the player will know how to beat all of the different container types and all of the different versions, and at this point we can put the skills to a real test. On this track, the containers are spawned randomly from a pool of all possible container types. And when you respawn, you get new containers so that you can't just rely on muscle memory. Sometimes with this track there's an issue where for some reason the collision just disappears, but I found a simple solution to that. Here we go. Oh, and by the way, the track with all different container types is not the grand finale. The best thing in rally is of course drifting on a surface with minimal friction, and let me just say that winter is coming. But that is a story for another time. Thank you so much for watching, and hey, if you have any ideas about the tracks, please do let me know in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, it helps a lot, and do consider subscribing. I will see you in the future.